Hey, hi, hey everyone. Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. I hope you are doing well. Now, in this video, we're going to do what we used to call back in the old country in Italy, a reazione. Basically giving my thoughts and feelings on a much older video of mine, a review, a classic review. In fact, it's a classic review. It's aged like wine. I'm sure it's one of the most legendary reviews of all time. My old review of Tyler, the Creator's Goblin. I thought it would be fun to go into the back catalog and see if maybe some of my thoughts on these projects, or even my thoughts on my own reviewing process and abilities, have changed over the years. I know already within the first few seconds of this review, I am being hit with a wave of nostalgia because I am looking at the tree. So I don't know. I mean, certainly Tyler has grown a lot creatively since the release of this project. So the point of this video is not to make fun of him or act like he's a terrible artist or he's lacking. If I do, in fact, end up just kind of feeling very similar to the way that I did in 2011, I believe that was the year. So, you know, I think this reaction is just intended to give a little perspective and serve as a reminder as to where, you know, I was at a certain time, where creatively Tyler was at a certain time. I think it'll be interesting. So let's hop on this classic review train and see what's going on over in the past. Feels weird to have been on the internet for this long. Oh my God. I'm going so crazy, and that's my sun shirt, my old sun shirt.
Yes, it's here. It's finally here. It is out. We are listening to
so
it.
I at the time, man, I look so smooth. I look so smooth in that video. That's almost 10 years ago, about 10 years ago at this point. I'm loving how smooth I look in that video, but that's a bit of deception there because the DSLR camera that I used to use did not have as crisp a picture as it does these days. So, you know, it's a bit of youth and a bit of camera magic, I would say. And things used to look a lot beigeur back then. Things were a lot more beige back in the day. At the time, I was anticipating people would effing hate everything I had to say about this record. So what I did was I faked a positive review for a few seconds on the intro, and then I went into the actual review immediately after.
Best album I've ever heard in my life. The best rap album I've ever heard too. Better than that one, better than that one, better than that one, and better than that one. It's better than, it's the greatest. Strong, beefy, huge, gigantic, in-your-face, 10 strong swag.
Whoa, Cal's looking pretty young though there. Cal's looking like a young buck.
Swag.
Right there. You guys always ask, like, where does that sound come from? That where does that come from? That that sort of makes all of the titles go away at the front end of the videos. It comes from that instrumental.
Are they gone? Hi, everyone.
You know, what's funny is the room I used to do this in was so fucking small, and just to the side of me, behind me in this video, like where that vinyl is, immediately in that area was my computer desk. I would literally shoot the review there in my chair, then I'd be done shooting, and then I would take the card out, and then I would turn around, just literally turn around without even having to roll anywhere, and just pop it in the computer and start editing right there.
Hey.
Oh shit, do I have something in my teeth? What the fuck, Anthony? Clean your fucking dirty teeth. Brush your teeth, you dirty bitch.
Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd. And it's time for an album review. This is the real album review, not the decoy album review. This is the real life album review in real life for you. Doesn't that sound nice?
I'm such a shithead. I hate myself. I can see why people don't like me.
Tyler, the creator, is a California rapper and the founder of Odd Future, which is a rap collective that over the past couple of years have released about a dozen or so mixtapes, which have received a lot of buzz on the blogosphere, but more the indie rock and pop blogosphere, not so much the rap blogosphere.
You know, that is true. It's funny just how popular Odd Future and, you know, Tyler as a brand and a cultural phenomenon has become across the board. But like at the time, it was really like the indie sites and blogs that were pumping this the F up. I mean, it really sort of reached a bit of an apex when Pitchfork did that huge feature on the whole collective, kind of introducing everybody to them.
His last album, Bastard, that I reviewed last year and liked a lot. And in the time between that Bastard review and today, I've pretty much felt every way you possibly could about Tyler, the creator. He's offensive. He's stupid. He's funny. He's terrible. He's nice. He's honest. He's a prima donna. He's angry. He's perceptive. He's artistic. He is human. And like any human, he is all of these things. And also like any human on the planet, Tyler is flawed. And he really lets that show in his music too, especially on Goblin, which goes in about every emotional direction you possibly could. And Bastard did that too, but Goblin is in a much different place, because Tyler is in a different place.
Yeah, that's sort of interesting to think about at this point. I mean, given what Tyler was able to do on Bastard, and given his taste, given sort of like what he knew to be his influences, and most likely how conscious he was of falling short of like achieving that level of greatness in his own music at the time, I don't know, in a way, I guess you could say it's commendable that he would come out with a record that is this raw.
Instead of just doing his thing and making music the way he wants to make it, Tyler takes his extreme lyrics, his extreme statements, and finds a way to preface each one of them with, "Oh, I'm not serious. Don't take me serious. This is fiction. I'm just joking." This album is 1 minute and 13 minutes long.
You know, truly and honestly, it was back then. It is still to this day a little annoying when artists get sucked into this vacuum of buzz and hype, and their music is basically about nothing other than that. There are other artists who have like kind of fallen prey to this, you know, since Tyler, the creator, and since the release of this record, and even before as well. And, you know, I think it's wonderful that Tyler has, in pretty much all respects, like transcended that entirely and has gone on to, you know, making music that's a little bit more relatable, sensible, and not so much at odds with just the media or the internet or whatever sections of the internet won't get off his back. And this is not a call for Tyler to give up being provocative entirely. You can certainly be provocative without having to battle it out in very petty and unimportant ways, like in your own records, in your own music that are going to be sitting around for years, and people are going to be listening to it, you know, 5-10 years down the road with absolutely no context for any of this shit.
He spends too much time addressing blog posts that people aren't even going to care about 4 months from now. And I know Tyler likes to put on this I don't give a fuck persona, but all of these half-baked retorts prove just the opposite.
That's kind of the other issue with Tyler constantly responding in the way that he was to everything, while you know, it certainly was in the vein of one of his heroes at the time, Eminem, you know, a lot of what he was doing artistically and as far as like the messaging of his music. It's still worth noting that the veil of I don't give a fuck is just so incredibly thin, because the more you respond, the more you just get into the mud with all of it, it's very apparent that you do give a fuck.
It's not like his music is the first to be misunderstood. I reviewed that Death Grips album yesterday.
Death Grips! Death Grips!
So even though the disclaimers really kill the rebellious vibe of sandwiches and radicals and Goblin.
Yeah, rebellion, but with a preface.
There are a lot of moments on here where I do feel like Tyler is making music the way he wants to make it. And I like that. whether or not the song disappoints.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of true. I can't really deny that, and I do have to commend the record for that. I mean, as I was saying earlier, certainly give props for dropping a record this raw and this just like out of control at the time that he did. And while, yeah, the back and forths on the record and the things that Tyler focused on with this record were a little petty, you can't really deny that he was like in total creative control of this thing. You know, this was like 110% him, and that's all. And maybe as we distance ourselves further from the project, the record could serve almost as like an artistic historical case study on, you know, just like celebrity and cult of personality back in the early 2010s. Because, yeah, you know, there was like a very adversarial, you know, tone in the media with a lot of what Tyler was doing. But simultaneously, like, Tyler and Odd Future had a diehard fan base that would just like spread all across the internet, shitting all over everything and everyone who would like, you know, dare critique, question, or dare go against anything the collective was doing at the time. You could even look at some of my, you know, reviews of old Odd Future stuff and just like read the 10 or 9-year-old comments, and they're not pretty, everybody. They're not pretty.
I really don't like the R&B influences coming in on Fish and coming in on She. And I don't hold that against Tyler. That's not something specific to this album. That's just a style I'm not particularly into.
Look at me talking about being a fucking R&B bitch noob over here. Bitch ass, bitch baby, bitch boy. I think there are a lot of people who step into the music review scene or who think about doing it, and they're like, oh, like how do I do this? I don't know everything. I haven't heard everything. I don't like everything. And honestly, like, give the music and give yourself time to like adjust, acclimate, appreciate, grow on you, everything. Because I mean, look, when I started what I was doing originally, like, not that I didn't enjoy other genres of music, but I just mostly reviewed indie rock because that sort of seemed like to be my lane. You know, that worked for me. I was, people would look at me and see me as just like an indie boy. So indie boy reviewing indie rock. Oh, that makes sense. Fuck that, because that just got really boring after a while. And, you know, I do enjoy other genres of music, and I enjoyed even some genres that I was maybe mild on previously, or, you know, maybe just had an appreciation for more of the classics and not so much more of the modern stuff coming out. What you enjoy and what you understand in regards to music is always growing and changing based on what you hear and what you experience and what your perception on things are. So, you know, get out there, try new things, expand your tastes, and just learn to listen in various ways to various genres and various artists, and that's all you can do.
All of the really pitch-shifted vocals on Transylvania make the track extremely obnoxious.
The pitch-shifted vocals all over this record sound so freaking cheap. When I've gone back to it, they sound really cheap. You know, maybe the record could, you know, be improved with some reproduction or something, but I don't know.
I'll see track on here called Window, which seemed like a good idea until I realized all of Tyler's friends are not as good as him when it comes to rapping.
God. Yes, the talent gap, the Odd Future talent gap, which a lot of people back in the day didn't really want to acknowledge. Like, it's pretty funny. The hardcore fans, like, didn't really matter to a lot of them whether or not like one member was all that much better than the other or was making much superior music, even with Goblin being as lacking as it was. But now that we're like kind of years past this point, who has stayed on and who has completely fallen off and is not even recording music anymore, it's pretty apparent. But you know, you do have to acknowledge that for Odd Future fans and for Odd Future themselves, that was kind of the appeal, whether they knew it or were doing it intentionally or not. Because prior to Odd Future, you can't really name a collective that came through with like this wild, young, completely amateurish, almost like punk ethos and attitude where I'm going to be just really insolent and act almost childish and be ridiculous and be over the top and absolutely just have no reservations about that whatsoever. And in the wake of this record and the Odd Future wave in general, you can't really deny that that had a pretty huge impact on things.
Nightmare is my favorite track on this album. And it's just Tyler looking into his darkest urges and laying really grim lyrics to them.
You know, what's funny is we're halfway through the review, and this is sort of a comment on my own reviewing style over the years, but halfway through the review, and not that I haven't done reviews as of late where I've focused more on the songwriting and storytelling. I mean, I think that would certainly be the case for, let's say, the new Weezer record that I just reviewed. But halfway through this review, I am shocked at how little I am talking about the production. Now, granted, the production on that record is like really effing rough, and I'm sure I do take some of the beats to task at some point later in the video, I think. But frankly, again, I'm kind of shocked at just how little I'm talking about the beats and the quality of the beats on this thing, or going as far as to like describe the way they sound or certain textures. Maybe that's just something I've focused more on as the years have drawn on.
The synthesizers sound like garbage, spewing from the most consumer-grade keyboard someone could buy at a Walmart. I'm not even going to name off tracks, because every track here has a synthesizer or a fake-ass piano sound that is ugly as sin and makes me kind of want to throw up, and then take my throw up and then pour it into my ears so I don't have to hear the sounds anymore. And
I have since gone back to, this record, and while, I do think that the production still sounds pretty horrid. Like most things, though, you do kind of look at it with, nostalgia frames at this point. And it's almost like, an aesthetic. It's kind of like a weird relic in time that just sounded very rough, very, messy, and that's really all I can say. I can be like, okay, that was a vibe.
I don't know why the beats aren't really a part of the conversation right now, because they sound like they were produced by a baby in Mario Paint Music Composer. Plus the reverb. I did not enjoy Goblin. There are some great tracks I pull out of it, but kind of a strong 4.
Damn, I gave it the strong 4. I'm not quite the reddest flannel territory, but yeah, it's a strong 4. It probably doesn't annoy me or offend me as much as it used to, so maybe I'm more neutral on it than I was, but strong 4. I could see why people were hating me on this one.
And you know what else? Goblin is Nilbog, spelled backwards.
Trolls 2 reference? Okay. Woo, death grips. All right, well, those are my thoughts on this classic Goblin review. It's funny just how I can't quite explain it. Not to say that I wasn't myself in my old videos. I certainly was, but there is something I'm definitely putting on, when I'm sort of reviewing. When I'm reviewing in this style, I'm trying to talk to you like this. Well, there is a way that I'm talking to you. I don't know why my voice is modulating like that, and I probably still do indulge in that to this day to a degree. But I'm glad I don't do that quite so much anymore, because it does come off in a weird way. Maybe I thought that was me being compelling in some way, or maybe seeming well-spoken. I really have no idea. So to sum things up on this record, for sure Goblin is not a project that I think has aged well or perfectly, especially some of the more, offensive or problematic elements of the language Tyler chooses to use on this project, which maybe if he had the opportunity to go back and not do that, he would. Who the hell knows? However, I do still think the album stands to this day as a true and very raw expression of a punk ethos and spirit from an up-and-coming artist who got a rush of attention that they absolutely never anticipated, and also stands as, I think, a benchmark as to how far creatively and aesthetically Tyler has come in the past decade. And not to say that all of Tyler's early catalog has aged awfully. I mean, obviously, Wolf has withstood the test of time in many respects, and narratively and conceptually, a lot of Odd Future and Tyler fans see that record as being a lot more enjoyable, ambitious, and respectable. But to this day, for me, I think Goblin still sort of stands mostly as a historical relic. You know, I guess I enjoy it to the extent that I enjoy it more than I did at one time. It's mostly for nostalgic reasons. The highlights from the LP, though, I would say still slap to this day. Yonkers, I think, is still a very good song and single. Without that track and music video, I don't think you would have Tyler, the Creator, where he is today. And those are basically my thoughts on this, and make sure to leave yours down in the comments. Do you still listen to this record to this day? And if you do, have your thoughts changed on it greatly? How do you feel like this record looks in 2021 with all of Tyler's recent releases in mind? And also, are there elements of Tyler's sound and style, in your opinion, that you think have stayed the same over this course of time? Because certainly there are moments on Igor as well as Flower Boy Magic, for example, where I think, you know, that kind of raw, wild Tyler does like come back. I mean, obviously with a purpose in a way that sort of adds to the narrative and plays into a concept, but it's obviously still there. Thank you guys very much for watching this video. You're the best, and I'll see you in the next one forever.